Welcome back. Our co-host from the first segment, he is a retired admiral, former president of the Berkeley County Commission, Mr. Bill Stubblefield.
Good morning, Rob. Before we get started, I want to fuss at Mike Height for not being here because he warms me up every morning. I punch the bear, and the bear punches back. I didn't have anybody to warm up on today.
Well, the Badger took one for the team because
he
said, my wife recently had the flu, and I want to make sure that I don't give it to everybody in the studio, so I'm going to bow out this week. And then, of course, the Badger goes to Charleston for the next 2 months.
But anyway, I did not have my chance to warm up like you do on a basketball court, football court. So I'm coming in cold, Rob.
Now, what were you in? You played high school basketball.
Yes,
what was your position?
Forward, if you'd believe it. We had a small team. And I couldn't jump. However, I did make honorable mention all West Tennessee without any talent whatsoever, just being a stubborn, I'm not going to give up sort of individual.
Now, this is in the days when they had the peach basket and the bottom wasn't cut out. You had to climb up the ladder and get the ball out, right?
Yeah. And you shot the free throws underhand between your legs, yeah. And the two-hand push shot from center court was common. Nope, that was all before my time.
Oh. Also returning from the first half hour, New York Times best-selling author John Gilstrap, retired firefighter safety engineer as well.
Good morning.
You were in the Mike Height chair.
I am.
And we'll be in that chair most of the time over the next couple of months.
All right.
We're not traveling.
I will try to serve it well.
We're not traveling or launching books.
Yes.
That's fair. Also, welcome back the longest tenured member of our crew, Mr. Michael Carl, former tax commissioner of the state of West Virginia.
Good morning.
Attorney at law, St. Louis Cardinals fan.
And I played basketball in high school, but I shot overhand free throw.
Was that at Romney?
Yeah.
Yeah, what was your position?
I was a forward.
Forward, okay. How tall are you, Mike?
6'2", just under 6'2".
6'2". And you were the manager at WVU when Fred Schaus was there?
Yeah, I was the student manager of the basketball team.
Yeah. Did you do that all 4 years?
Not when I was a freshman, but
after that.
Yeah.
Was there any scholarship money associated with that?
Yeah, there was a little help.
That's nice.
A little help.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Did you get involved in athletics when you went to law school at all?
No. I mean, I played, just pick up basketball on the side, but not involved with the university itself.
Gotcha. Let's also say good morning to John Doyle, former member of the House of Delegates, served there 26 years, Deputy Revenue Secretary, and ski instructor, too. Good morning, John.
Good morning, everybody. And I did not play basketball at all.
But you played football.
I played football at Charlestown High School, and I remembered the plays most of the time.
That's great. I played with the kid. I don't want to say his name, but we played football together for 8 years, from grade school all the way up through high school in the same backfield. And he wasn't real smart. And I remember there was a particular play. What he would always ask me, he said, "What do I do on this play?" And I'd say to him, "You're getting the ball. You're going right." And we broke the huddle. He went to his side of the backfield. I went to my side of the backfield. He stopped and he grabbed me. He goes, "Hey." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Which way's right?"
No, I do have a real quick story to tell you about that. I actually did know the plays from every position on offense. And Dick Harbison, who was our coach, one time we had a fullback, the backup fullback, who was sort of like your friend. And he just could not remember the plays. So Coach Harbison had me stay after practice for about 45 minutes one day with this one guy to teach him all the plays. And by the time it was over, I couldn't remember the plays.
It backfired.
Yeah.
Via telephone, attorney at law Joseph Joey Torts. Ready. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning and Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year to you, Joe. Joe also played high school football, as I recall. And what high school did you go to in PA?
Little town, two-stoplight town called Leechburg. And I played for the Leechburg Blue Devils. And we had guys on our team that didn't know the plays either. And I remember one time a couple captains and we went to the coach and said, "Hey, I'll protect the guy's name." Said, "Johnny doesn't know the darn plays, and it's causing problems." And the coach looked at us and said, "Half the coaching staff doesn't know the plays. Just find the ball."
That's our end zone. That's theirs. Figure it out. Leechburg, Joe's about, 20 miles north of the city, Pittsburgh?
About 35 miles north of Pittsburgh, up the Allegheny River.
Yeah, man. All right, this is January 9, and among the things that this is known for, it is National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, National Apricot Day, National Static Electricity Day, which the safety engineer is laughing about. Yeah, I'm sure he's got a few stories on that one, too. And it was on this date in 1793 that the first U.S. balloon flight took place. And in 2007, when Steve Jobs unveiled the very first iPhone. This date, 2007. And now we're up to what, iPhone 17, I think, about all these years later?
Yeah, and more than that, they become such an instrumental part of our lives. They in so many different specters. So how would we survive without our smartphone and our iPhones?
And here's, it's part of a tragedy, I think. I found out yesterday, Rob, you probably know this, that the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, which is the first newspaper published west of the Alleghenies, 1786. I think it had a different name at the time, but that newspaper has gone down through the ages and is now the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and it will cease publication on the 3rd of May.
That's correct. You are right on that one, John.
And I just think that is a great tragedy.
Joe, did you have a job delivering newspapers as a kid? Almost everybody did, it seems.
I did, and Rob, you remember, I delivered the Pittsburgh Press, which was a separate newspaper in Pittsburgh. I delivered that in Leechburg in the mornings before I went to school, and the subscription rate was quite high back in the day because that's how people got their news.
Right, and you had the Press was the morning paper, the Post-Gazette was the afternoon paper, and then eventually they merged. But there was I guess you would know more about this, me, Joe, from a legal standpoint. I think it was a judge made a ruling recently about a previous contract that the union had dating back to 2014, and the Post-Gazette said we cannot operate under that contract. And as a result, they said, I think they lost $350 million over the last few years, and they said, we'll just go out of business. We'll just close it down instead. So that's the end of that, right?
Yeah, and I agree with the sentiment. It is, I don't want to say a tragedy, but it is certainly disappointing to not have that source of news.
Yeah, I used to deliver papers with a kid named Eddie Zolka back in the day, and we would go around. That's a Pittsburgh name, Slavic, and you throw the newspapers on collection day.
Sounds like a communist airplane.
Eddie Zolka, got a Zeppelin and a Zolka. And then we would take the money we'd make from collections. We'd go to the corner store and we would buy. Remember Adams gum? It came in like 7 different flavors.
Yeah.
And the year I did that with him, I wound up with like 7 cavities because that was straight sugar gum. And my parents ended that working relationship right after they had to pay for 7 cavities, whatever it was. All right, it's issue number 1 time. Joe's the leadoff hitter. Hit it.
Okay, Rob. Look, what's in the news is the situation in Minneapolis, so I'm going to delve into that. However, with a couple specific questions. Look, we have a history in this country of conflicts that arise between state and federal government and our private citizens, and we know all about a lot of these cases, Waco, Ruby Ridge, those occurring during the Clinton administration, which certainly bungled dealing with the public and communicating with the public on those incidents. We had the Kent State shootings where 67 shots were fired at college students as they protested the Vietnam War. And by the way, if you want to see a master class in how to communicate after such a conflict between the government and citizens, go to Nixon's first press conference later that same day after the shooting. It is remarkable how well he performed in that press conference. What happened in Minneapolis, of course, is under investigation. I think we all can agree an investigation is needed and necessary before we decide right and wrong. I've been dismayed by the response on both sides of the political spectrum to this tragedy and the loss of life with this young lady. I saw the governor of Minnesota run out to the microphone and start talking about murder. I saw the mayor of Minneapolis just dropping F-bombs and threatening ICE and telling them to get out of the city. already judging that the event was solely the responsibility of the federal agent who fired the fatal shots. And I saw our president and vice president label the young lady a political agitator, who was obstructing justice, and who bears sole responsibility for her own death. I think both approaches are wrong, and I think that it portends that we're going to have a lot of probably risk going forward in terms of the relations between the federal government and its citizens. I do know this as a fact. Trump's beautiful budget bill that he passed and signed into law has $75 billion more dollars for ICE. It has $100 billion more dollars for Homeland Security and all the other agencies involved with Customs and Border Patrol. There's going to be quite a surge that we're going to see in the near future regarding the situation with attempts to get illegal immigrants rounded up and sent out of the country. There's going to be a risk of more Minneapolises in the future. So it's going to be, in my mind, incumbent upon our elected leaders to really lead on this issue. So I don't want to debate right or wrong on what happened in Minneapolis, but I do want to ask these questions. Can we trust our current leaders, again, on both sides of the political spectrum, to speak about the inevitable conflicts that will arise? What level of confidence do you have that our elected leaders are going to be able to address tragedies such as what occurred in Minneapolis, to cool the rhetoric and to avoid further unrest in our communities as a result of these conflicts? And will we get an investigation? What is your confidence level on getting an investigation that will contain some objectivity and that will hopefully give some satisfaction to the public that these conflicts are being evaluated, dissected, and reported on accurately? What is your level of confidence in that realm? Those are the issues I have on my mind this morning.
Mr. Doyle, you're up first.
And Joe, I agree with you. To me, a large part of the problem is the current administration seems to think that everybody in uniform can do everything that anybody in uniform does. I think a large part of the problem is you have ICE, which is they're not trained to be cops on the street. In many cases, doing jobs like a cop on the street. There are two real problems with what happened, and I've said this in the past about the National Guard. You know, there are certain things the National Guard is supposed to do. They're not trained to be cops on the beat. That's what police officers are trained for. So there are two major problems that I see with what happened in Minneapolis. One is after that lady was shot and wrecked her car, a trained police officer, even if it were the police officer who shot the lady, would have first gone and tried to render first aid and tried to get some whatever kind of medical assistance would be necessary. He just walked away. Again, he's not trained to be a police officer. You're right. We need an investigation. I'm not prejudging him, but I am saying I think he lacked the kind of training to be in that situation. And following on, there was a guy who identified himself as a physician who showed up and wanted to render aid, and other ICE agents said, no, you can't do that. We have our own medical people on the way, and they weren't. So again, I think a large part of the problem is that this administration just seems to think they can use anybody in uniform for anything anybody does in uniform. And in particular, I remember when Christy Nome stood there with a cowboy hat 3 times as wide as her shoulders, and it reminded me of the 1988 election, when Michael Dukakis had himself photographed riding around in a tank with a tanker's helmet that was too big for his head and was bouncing around. That when I saw Christy Nome, it reminded me of Michael Dukakis in one of the worst campaign ads I've ever seen in my life. So at any rate, Joe, you are absolutely correct. And I do think that in order for this investigation to be accepted by the public, the national administration is going to have to include the Minnesota State Police and the Minneapolis City Police, or otherwise, if it's only the federal government that does the investigation, and the administration has already publicly proclaimed that this guy is completely innocent, I don't think the results will be accepted by the public.
John Gilstrap.
Good morning again. I think, the issue itself, the growth in ICE and the doubling down on Homeland Security has everything to do with open borders and the flood of millions of unknown people across the border who now have to be removed. I think that was a foolish decision. You can't turn back history, but I think it's important to note where this started and why we're here. Donald Trump won on a platform of getting rid of the illegals who are here, and that's what he's doing. Now, I'm not going to try to litigate what happened in Minnesota. I've seen this thing from multiple angles, and actually, what I've seen on the news, right? You can draw different conclusions from the different angles of the video that you watch, and then you've got where the lady came from and where the ICE agent came from, having been dragged by a car 6 months earlier. Maybe he shouldn't have been on the street again. I don't know, but so I don't want to litigate what went on there, but I do think, Joe, you asked some really good questions here. That can we trust our current leaders to speak clearly about what's going on and what will go on in the future? No, I don't think we can, because everything has become, there's no middle ground anymore. We've lost any capability for nuance in the decisions people make. I think that it's a mistake to close out the locals from the investigation that's to follow, but the asterisk that goes on there is that the governor and the mayor of Minneapolis has been very clear that his police are not to cooperate in any way with federal law enforcement forces. So that being the predicate, why then would you include people who have already drawn their conclusion? I don't think people are going to trust the investigation that comes from federal government, but people don't trust what came from the Warren Commission 60 years ago. So people are I think everything is preloaded to doubt what the Trump administration is going to come out with. And right now, it's cool to hate cops, and it's cool to hate ICE in particular, and it's cool to pick fights. We already heard there's another news story today, I think it's in Portland, where an ICE agent shot civilians at a traffic stop. Well, just the headline itself predisposes the listener to the fact that the ICE agent is wrong. I'm not happy with the level of training that these ICE agents are getting. Apparently at FLETC, a federal law enforcement training center, they've taken it from 12 weeks down to 8 weeks for these new guys. That's wrong. So there's a lot of moving parts here. So do we trust? No.
Bill Stubblefield.
Yeah, two things. Answer your question, Joe. No, I don't trust it. I don't think the general public trusts our legislative leaders at this point in time. John Gilstrap, you mentioned we hate cops. I don't think it's the hate cops is part of the vernacular just now. There is distrust toward ICE, but I'd like to make the separation between cops and ICE, if you will. The thing that I think is going to be telling in this is going to become a political issue in 26. I long said I thought the political discussion would be around affordability. I still believe that it's going to be affordability, but more and more, it's going to be about the role that ICE is playing. And it's with our polarized society, one faction, the more conservative side, say go, 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 go. But there's a large unrest among the other side of the aisle, including a lot of independents, feeling that ICE has gone too far. I think you're going to hear, introduced in our political vernacular in the next year, police state. We're going to see more and more of a police state, or at least a sense of it. And that's going to be driven by two different things. That's going to be the attitude or the response of our national leaders of defending, in the case of Vance, defending unequivocally the ICE agent without even knowing what was on the tapes. So unequivocally came to the defense from a national leader. The second thing is the growth of ICE. We've gone from around 10,000 a few months ago to over 22,000 ICE agents today. And then if you add that $75 billion that Joe alluded to, it's going to grow even larger. So I think there is, even though I think the Republicans are going to deny emphatically and say it'll never happen, I think you're going to hear more and more in the political rhetoric next year of a police state.
Mike Carl.
Well, I have to agree mostly with Mr. Gilstrap on all this, and this whole thing about, I mean, one of the political implications or effects rather of this very unfortunate shooting and death of this woman is that it distracts from the scandal that Governor Walz was just about to have to endure, and so he will actively talk about the shooting to keep the attention away from the unbelievable mismanagement scandal that he's been shown to make happen with all the funding that's been wasted and on the
welfare scheme.
Well, the welfare and the the illegal aliens who've created. That's why we have ICE. That's why this is all reaction to the mismanagement of America, particularly its immigration laws, by the prior administration.
Joe, the final word comes back to you.
Well, Rob, as I watch these leaders, these elected officials, run to the mics and talk about what happened within hours of the event itself, and they immediately prejudge the matter. I just wonder who's advising these folks. I mean, how hard is it to stand up there and say, look, we don't have all the facts. We're going to do a full investigation. We're going to report to you what we know, but we're not going to conclude or opine on anything until we have all the information. But within hours, the exact opposite was done. And the concern I have is that it just raises the temperature level to such a degree that we have a risk of future conflicts between government authority and its citizens because of the reporting that is so one-sided by these elected officials. And again, on both sides of the political spectrum, it just raises the ante to the point where we're throwing gas on a fire. We should expect more from our elected officials, and one of the ways we should judge these people and their fitness for office is how they handle situations like this. Yes, we can look at policy and everything else that they espouse and what's best for the country, but we should also look at how do they perform when the fire's the hottest. And I think right now the performance levels have been very poor.
Thank you, Joe. Good issue, quite provocative. Good points made around the table. We'll stop at the top of the hour. Bill is on the clock. This is Talk Radio, WRR Martinsburg and TV10. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. And that is, of course, the voice of Joseph Joey Torts Ferretti, who is one of our panelists via telephone. He led off the program this morning. This is National Clean Off Your Desk Day. So when you leave here today, or if you're listening at your own desk and it's messy, don't violate the spirit of the day. Clean up after yourself, kids.
You put your forearm in this corner, and then you sweep it across.
Simple.
Then you have a whole new day, a whole new year.
Who needs a cleaning service for that? This is also the birth date of the 37th President of the United States, Mr. Richard Nixon. Mike Carl served in the White House during the Nixon administration. And only he and he alone knows the contents of that 18 and a half minutes of missing sound on the tapes. What did they say, Mike? What was on there?
It's under confidential requirement.
Thought I could get on the top.
Did you know Rosemary Woods?
Name rings a bell.
She was a secretary who.
Name rings a bell. Yeah, that's understated. Mike Carr, longest tenured member of our crew. Welcome back, Michael.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Mr. John Gilstrap, New York Times best-selling author.
Good morning.
Mr. John Doyle, Vietnam War veteran.
Good morning, everybody.
And with issue number 2, bad idea, Captain. Bad idea.
Bad idea,
The Admiral
yeah.
Bill Stubblefield.
Yeah, Monday I listened with great interest the John Gilstrap, Chris Anders discussion on the attack in Venezuela, and then I heard a little bit yesterday. By the way, I wish you'd schedule the Doyle Gilstrap at some time that does not interfere with my Thursday morning breakfast.
Change your breakfast.
No. Change the schedule.
Right there. I told him many times. Change your breakfast.
Yeah, but
Eat it half an hour later.
But invoked by the president and the Secretary of Defense that the justification for going into Venezuela was justified with the Monroe Doctrine. A very, very, very brief history lesson. The Monroe Doctrine in 1823 was addressed to tell Europe, stay out of the Western Hemisphere's, do not meddle in Western Hemisphere issues. In turn, the U.S. would not get involved with European matters. In the early 20th century, Teddy Roosevelt added to it, Roosevelt Corollary, which I think John Gilstrap referenced the other day, that said the Monroe Doctrine could be extended to justify intervention instead of just defending Latin American nations. That was done so they could get leverage for the Panama Canal. However, the Monroe Doctrine and Roosevelt Corollary are a U.S. foreign policy stance. They've never been codified in an international treaty. They've never been recognized by other nations. They've never been adjudicated in a standalone case of the Supreme Court, or any court of law for that matter. The World Court has not recognized the legal defense. The Supreme Court has not considered foreign policy statements or formal treaties. They have not directly decided on or invalidated the Monroe Doctrine in any way whatsoever. My view is the only justification that we had for Venezuela, going into Venezuela, there's no legal justification. It is mighty makes right. We have the strongest army in the Western Hemisphere. We have one of the strongest armies in the world. We can do pretty much what we think we should do, and nobody else legally they can stand up to what we said. Am I wrong on this assumption?
All right, that's the question. Is Bill wrong on might makes right is what's driving the foreign policy. Mr. Gilstrap, you're on a hot streak right now, and you got the emotions bubbling.
Venezuela is about a lot of things. I've said it before. It was really an extended SWAT raid to arrest a guy who, against whom there are multiple indictments, plus a $50 million bounty. So we went in, we arrested him. So what did we do? As far as the Monroe Doctrine is concerned, no, it's never been codified. There are a lot of things that haven't been codified, but the idea is it's now been boiled down to FAFO, right? Fool around, find out is sort of the new codification. What we did, in addition to capturing Maduro, we also cut the knees out of China, Iran, and Russia, all of whom were very subtly, over the last 25 years, 30 years, about 25 years, while we've been distracted into the Middle East, China in particular has been moving in very steadily into Central America and South America and bolstering their hold there. They controlled both ends. China, Chinese Communist Party, controlled both ends of the Panama Canal. With the recent changes in Venezuela, Cuba's going to die. Cuba's going to go away. It doesn't know it yet. It's kind of just withering on the vine, and ultimately it can sustain. I don't think it can sustain the economic damage that's what's being happened here. So I want to boil it down to, we got kind of short on time. We don't just protect against clear and present dangers. We have to protect against clear dangers. And that's what was happening in South America. And it's not just about the drugs, which itself, the drug trade, as we know, kills 100,000 Americans a year. I think this is a fine thing to do.
Mr. Doyle?
If, in fact, all this was a SWAT raid, then the president should have said so. But the president keeps talking about oil, 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 oil. And I don't think it was about oil. If all we do is what we've done, it's not about oil. My fear is that we're going to make it more, and that is going to cost the taxpayers of West Virginia, or of the United States, a lot of money. Oh, and by the way, the Admiral is absolutely correct about the Monroe Doctrine, and incidentally, this is important, I think, an important piece of history. The Monroe Doctrine was established in the next to last year of President James Monroe's 8 years, and it was really developed by his Secretary of State, John Quincy Adams, who became president after Monroe. So there are many historians who are starting now to say it really ought to be called the Adams Doctrine.
Bill, you were there. Who's right?
Obviously, John Doyle knows what he's talking about.
Mr. Carl.
Well, the thing that's being overlooked in this back and forth discussion is that Trump, the way he has proceeded with Maduro and his charges and the litigation, the base of the litigation to address those charges, will ultimately confirm he believes, or it won't, but it is in the base, or the place where it should be, which will ultimately go to the Supreme Court of the United States to confirm that Trump was right to do what he did, that he had the authority to do what he did, and Maduro deserved to be arrested and put through criminal proceedings as happened to him.
Mr. Ferretti.
Well, I'll go back to my theme this morning, which is messaging. I'm unclear as to what the goals are in Venezuela now that we have decapitated the leadership of the country. I don't think the president's going to get in trouble with any of our courts regarding taking Maduro out. And he's a bad guy, and I think that ship has sailed, so we're not going to debate that. But what happens in the aftermath so that this does not become an Iraqi situation or a Libya situation or an Afghanistan situation, where this country has a very poor record of handling the aftermath of decapitation of the leadership. In this case, I think the president is off the track. He's talking about oil. There's an oil embargo. We're seizing ships. Where's the talk to win the hearts and minds of the Venezuelan people? Where's the talk about human rights, about elections, and about economic interests that are front and center for the people who live in that country? There's no talk about that. So I think the president has to realize that there's still a major job to do here now that you've taken out the leader. His vice president, Maduro's vice president, is now in charge of the country. The Maduro people are still there. And I found it interesting that when she got sworn in, I think her name's Delcy Rodriguez, there were Chinese diplomats there that she was hugging. So this is this situation that is far from concluded. And hopefully the president realizes that, and his administration understands that, as Colonel Powell said in Iraq, if you break it, you own it. So let's get to work.
Back to you, Bill.
Yeah, and it comes back to the fact the Monroe Doctrine, how was it utilized, and I do not, as I think everybody agreed, the Monroe document, except for a internal policy statement, does not have legal standing. And the Supreme Court, because it's a political question, I don't think the Supreme Court will ever hear it. So it is what it is. It's a political statement. It's an internal document.
Issue number 3, Mr. Gilstrap.
All right. Before I get to issue number 3, I do want to say that much of what I said in my last comment about China comes from a really excellent article written by a friend of mine, Chuck DeCaro, in The Blaze. I read it this morning. The article is called "Venezuela Was the Stage, China Was the Target." So I don't want to, just so you know where some of that came from.
Is that the same, The Blaze, Glenn Beck was part of founding?
I don't know.
By chance?
Perhaps. Is
Yeah.
that but
Yeah, we don't have time. Yes, that's. I'd love
but
to
anyway,
talk about that.
he's a fascinating guy. So anyway, I want to talk a little bit about the Mamdani in New York, who in a
How
recent
does your cell phone restart him?
Mom Daniel. So, which may be kind of that's sort of an odd Gone with the Wind reference, right?
Kind
Mom
of, yeah.
Daniel, yeah. So. He talked about replacing the frigidity, this is his quote, replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. He's really talking here, I mean, he's embracing the whole notion of communism and kind of following in the footsteps of Fiorello LaGuardia, who's one of his stated heroes. The way this works in New York, it's easy enough to do, is you increase regulation and then you lock down rents. You do rent control until the landlords can't pay their tax bills. Then you take over the buildings, and now you've got public property that you can then give over and run into another Cabrini Green. My question to the panel, given what we've seen from the Democratic Party that really doesn't have a message other than Orange Man bad and we hate cops, I say, you say just ICE, but I ask the cops who are shot all the time or shot at all the time. Is this super socialist / communist / social democrat, democratic socialist, whatever we're going to call it, is this the new drumbeat for the Democratic Party?
Mr. Stubblefield, you've got the wryest smile of anyone I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think from the Republican vantage point, from your vantage point, John, you're exactly right. That is going to be the drumbeat. However, for the rest of the nation, I don't think that's the case. I think the Republicans, yes. For the rest of the nation, no. I think the drumbeat for the Democratic Party is going to be the affordability issue. And I think it's going to be, as Mickey Sherrill in her race for governor for New Jersey, Abigail Spanberger for her race for Virginia, they have defined the drumbeat for the Democratic Party. And it's going to be on affordability issue. And right now, the Republicans are having a hard time rebutting this argument. They made several attempts. Trump has made a couple of attempts, but he keeps changing his approach to it. So I think that's going to be the issue, the affordability issue, and not what you'd like to see in the leadership in New York City.
All right, Mr. Carl.
Well, I'm cynically welcoming what the new mayor of New York is saying, and I don't disagree with Bill's comments on the plus and minus of whether it matters nationwide. But I think the guy is the mayor of New York. The new mayor is unique, and he's calling for an end to free market and an acceptance of communism. I mean, that's basically what he's talking about. And the more well-known and nationally recognized he is, the more that's going to help the Republicans politically throughout the country, even in places like California. To go as far as the mayor has gone to advocate communism versus free market capitalism is unbelievable, and it won't even carry the political ball in California.
Mr. Doyle.
Yeah, I've said it before on this show. I'll say it again. There's a difference between communism and socialism. Communism is socialism under a dictatorial government. there's no way you're going to get that any mayor of New York is going to be a dictator. If anything, it would be subjugated by the governor of New York State, the way the laws work in New York State and the ordinances in New York City. So that's out of the question. I'm going to add some names to the ones that Admiral Stubblefield came up with in terms of people who are going to be the face of the Democratic Party over the next couple, 3 years. Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky. Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly, who basically was about ready to ride off into the sunset until Pete Hegseth revived his congressional campaign. These are the kinds of people that I think are going to be the spokespeople for the Democratic Party over the next few years. Not Zoran Mamdani, not Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, not Bernie Sanders. So I am very confident. I'm going to add a couple more. George Conway, who has now become a Democrat and is running for Congress. Jeff Duncan in Georgia, the former Republican lieutenant governor of Georgia, who is now running for governor as a Democrat. This is going to demonstrate that the Democratic Party is once again becoming what it once was, a very, very broad assembly of people who have different opinions about a lot of different things. As a guy who was Speaker of the West Virginia House of Delegates back in the 1940s said, there is room under the Democratic sky for every sail, room on the Democratic sea for every ship. So I think that's what we're going to see.
Unless you're a pro-life Democrat.
No, Jeff Duncan is pro-life. We're going to have a number of those.
All right. Hey, Mr. Ferretti, that would leave you.
Yeah, and Jeff Duncan has a Leechburg connection, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
Look, the lessons, I think, from Mamdani, I think there's a little bit of wish casting taking place here in the hopes that the National Democratic Party will adopt the policies of a Mamdani administration. I don't think that's going to happen. In fact, I think it's noteworthy that when Mamdani was rising in the polls before the election, rank and file Democrats didn't run to Andrew Cuomo and say, oh, we're going to get behind him. They basically sat out this race. In fact, if you recall, a lot of the leadership of the Democratic Party refused to endorse Mamdani up until the very end. Some of them went on board, but a lot of them refused to endorse him because they understand that the policies nationally are probably a bit toxic. But I think the lessons for the Democratic Party here from Mamdani is the fact that community presence is key to developing a relationship with your citizens. And Mamdani was great at that. The willingness to go engage with hostile media. He sat down with interviews with the New York Post. He went on Fox. He visited the president at the White House. This is a man who's willing to engage. He's not guilty, as so many Democrats are, of just running to safe places and not espousing what they think is important in life. So I think those are the lessons the Democrats will take from Mamdani. As for the policies, I don't think that's going to happen.
William, back to you.
No,
John.
it's me.
Yeah, sorry, John, back to you.
I think there's a difference between political insiders, how they see the world of politics, and the way voting citizens see the world of politics. And here's the big thing. You've named a whole bunch of names that show a lot of insight that I don't have, names that I've never heard of, and names that the world will never hear of because their message is not dynamic. You know, this is the day of clickbait. This is the day of who owns the internet. And when you look at the change that Chuck Schumer made, just because of the pressure from AOC, he suddenly became he went from being fairly middle ground to far left wing just to get the votes. So you got Bernie, you got AOC, you got Omar, you got Schumer, Waltz, the California governor, whose name escapes me right now.
Gavin
Newsom. Those are the ones who attract all of the attention, all of the heat from the media. And that means that is the message of the National Democratic Party. So, and Joe, I think you hit on the point that is the real danger for the Democratic Party and for the nation, actually, because as as we come up on primaries for the national elections, as we come up on primaries, it's going to be a choice between this far left, really great sounding super socialist message. Whether it's communist or not, that's a textbook thing. The bottom line is it's against private ownership of property and it's against individualism. If that becomes the drumbeat of the Democratic Party, what happens, Joe, is the Democrats sit home. They're not going to vote for a Republican. What they're going to do is they're going to sit home. And I hope that's what happens, because that means the Republicans win again. But I do think that just as Trump reshaped the Republican Party to be something that not all Republicans are comfortable with, I do think that Mamdani and Omar and AOC and all of these far left wingers are reshaping the Democratic Party to be something that Democrats are not going to be comfortable with. And people like, I have no problem with Abigail Spanberger. I mean, she's milquetoast, and her message is milquetoast. It does not command clicks. You know, she's not going to bring out thousands of people to hear Abigail Spanberger talk. So, but they will come out for AOC. They will come out for these firebrands because they're firebrands, and they command that heat of the camera. So I believe that the fact that Mamdani is so comfortable going to the White House and going on Fox News and all, he is so comfortable that he's right. You know, he's not like Schumer. Schumer is just, you know, he's Shimura. He changes for whatever needs to be done. Mamdani thinks he's right, and people are following Mamdani, and I fear that that's the future.
John, we'll not know until we have a primary.
Well, of course.
One of the weaknesses of the Democratic Party right now is they did not have a 2024 primary. And the firebrands that you have identified are the ones that people are familiar with. I think the list of folks that John Doyle said are going to be the drivers, the movers and shakers at the next primary. And you say you don't have no familiarity with them now. You will have after the primary.
I kind of hope we do.
Yeah.
Because God forbid the Republicans lose and we end up with, you know, AOC or AOC light.
Can it be worse?
Than
yes.
now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It can be. It can be.
January.
And John,
go ahead, Bill.
John, I would add your characterization of Spanberger and Mikey Sherrill, may be accurate in terms of their internet clicks, but they did win statewide office
by big margins.
So it's resonating with somebody.
Yes, and against. And you can always do the weak candidate argument. Yes, she did win, and she spanked the Republican Party, but against a candidate whose name I have already forgotten. And that the Republican Party never got behind.
Spears.
And, yes. Sears.
Winsome Earl Sears.
Yeah. So it all comes down to the
Seals.
Seals? And who are the Republicans going to run? You know, Trump is done in the next elections, and there ain't going to be another one quite, you know, like him. There will only be Trump light. So we'll see. It'll be very interesting. I just hate the idea of the alternative to the Republican Party being Soviet Union.
Hey, this country, no one swings the pendulum like this country.
That all day, John.
He sounds like
you're not going to get away with the last statement there.
Bill, he's sounding like Joe McCarthy.
Pendulum swings in this country, and it rarely stops in the middle.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. So when you go far to one side, which we are right now, as a response to far to the other side, you go right back to the other side.
See, I was looking at the clock wrong. I thought that was the last comment. I thought we would end on the Soviet Union
very
thing.
close, John. Your timing is good.
This date, January 7, 1920, in New York City, they refused to seat the 5 duly elected socialist members of the county council. Refused to seat them, 1920, because they were socialists. Hey, we are back with issue number 4. Mr. Doyle, that will be yours next.
Okie dokie.
I kind of tried to say this to close out the last segment, but didn't have the exact words. 1920, January 7, the New York State Assembly refuses to seat 5 duly elected socialist assemblymen. That was what the exact verbiage was off of one of those Today in History things. It was from, I think, what's today, the 9th, 2 days ago?
Communists or socialists?
Socialists.
See,
right.
John, there's a distinction.
Was that, I'm trying to remember, was that the case that ended up in the U.S. Supreme Court, that Charles Evans Hughes wrote the court's opinion in which he said about the defendants, there is not a paragraph with which I do not vigorously disagree, but there is not one sentence, word, or syllable that can be interpreted to be subversive. I think that may have been a couple of those defendants in that case.
I'm amazed at your recall on that quote.
He can say anything because we don't know. We can't correct him.
He didn't say or ah, so I assume he's got it memorized. It's time for issue number 4 as we welcome back our panel via telephone. Joseph Joey Torts ready. Joe, thank you once again for joining us.
Oh, glad to be here.
John Gilstrap, New York Times bestselling author.
I'm glad to be here, too. I'm more glad to be here.
You're more gladlier. Mr. Michael Carl.
I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad Gilstrap's here, especially.
Mr. Bill Stubblefield.
And I think John Doyle is right, John. Just because you did not know it, you cannot disabuse what he said.
With issue number 4, Mr. John Doyle.
And I asked the question. I didn't make a declarative sentence. I said, "Is that the case?" So, at any rate, yes, I'm happy to be here, and I am happy John Gilstrap is here, as I always am. I'm just going to essentially.
Some people are happy.
Yeah, well, no, we all are, John. We really are. Both of my topics basically have already been touched on by topics others have brought up. So I flipped a coin in my head, and I'll go with the one which is sort of a continuation of what we ended up with at last, and that is in Congress. Yesterday, 2 things happened. 17 Republicans joined all the Democrats in the House of Representatives to vote to extend the benefits of the Affordable Care Act when it comes to the drugs to the health care subsidies. And 5 Republican senators. I didn't realize this at the time when I wrote my topic here. 5 Republican senators joined with all the Democrats to vote to actually have a vote on whether or not President Trump's action in Venezuela going forward would be legal. So we will see, maybe. To me, this seems to be an indication that at least some Republicans or Congress are beginning to realize that the Democrats are now making headway in terms of public opinion, particularly on the health care issue and particularly on foreign policy issues. So I just want to throw that out to the panel to see what everybody else thinks about that.
All right, Mike Carl, what do you think?
Well, it shows that there are so many Republicans that there's a diverse point of view in terms of how they, support or don't support Trump and some of the things he's done.
About time.
Yeah, well, I don't have a problem with that, but we'll see how it plays out. But it does show that Trump doesn't have a total support and loyalty among the elected senatorial and congressional Republicans, and so that's the way the system works, and the question is whether it's subject to politically based judgment, and voting, or it's the legal exercise of his authority as president of the United States. And my topic, which I'm going to bring up shortly, kind of deals with that as well.
Very good, sir. Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, John Doyle, I don't think I'd read too much into that. This is political survival. And they, all these 17 Republicans that voted with the Democrats are on in contested seats or on very vulnerable seats. So I
swing districts.
Swing districts, yeah. Exactly right. And so I think they did it for a simple thing, political survival. If you want to read more into it, more power to you. If there was more into it, I would be enthusiastic over it, but I don't think it is.
Mr. Gilstrap?
I think it's a system working, and I think it's kind of embarrassing that people find that a point of discussion. That not every vote has to be along party lines, nor should it. I think people vote. Republicans will vote for what is best for their constituents and for I guess what's best in their heart. When Democrats like Fetterman will do the same thing, the only one who will cross the line to the Republicans, he's demonized and threatened with primaries against his party. I think what this shows is that maybe Capitol Hill can start working well again, but it has to go with Republican leadership to make sure it happens, because Democrats won't cross the line for anything.
Go ahead, Bill. I
Yeah,
know what you're about to say.
you mentioned Featherman. What about Massey? What about Rand Paul? If you
Well,
go-
okay,
Yeah.
Rand Paul
But-
is the tiger in the living room, right?
But, both of them have done the same thing.
yeah.
They bucked the president, and there's been major pushback. So let's don't just single out
No,
one
but-
party.
I think the
Let's
quote
be
was they
balanced.
should never be allowed to serve again. I think was
Well,
Trump's
and
quote.
actually, that's exactly what President Trump said about the 5 senators that voted against him. They should never be elected again.
And you know what? The president gets to say stuff like that. And why shouldn't he? Because he's angry. This is the way the system works, folks. This is the
Yes,
way
but you
it's
just
supposed to
complained
work.
about the Democrats
Yeah,
doing
but
it to
you-
Fetterman.
No,
Yes, John.
the point.
Yeah,
is,
you did.
Yes, I did. But the fact is that the way the system works is that you've got party leaders who are all who have their agendas, and then you have their soldiers, and the soldiers are not there to serve the party. In my mind, I mean, ultimately, I think this is the Mr. Smith moment, right? In my mind. Senators and congressmen are not there to serve the party. They're there to serve the people. And I think rather than casting shade on all of this as a bad thing, the Republicans cross the line, or even the Democrats would cross the line. Rather than casting shade on that, we would say, yay, maybe the system's working.
Mr. Ferretti.
Well, John, I'll disagree with you that this is the way the system is supposed to work, because up until very recently, Congress hasn't been working at all. If you look statistically at the number of bills that have passed out of this past Congress, the 2025 Congress, you look at the number of days they were actually in session. This is one of the worst performing Congresses in U.S. history. I think this is the least number of bills that have ever been passed out of Congress. They have largely been supine while this president has been the one governing the country by executive order. We don't have co-equal branches of government. A lot of people would argue this Congress has done next to nothing and have sat on their hands while agencies that they created and funded were done away with by executive order. Now, if that's how you think this is supposed to work, I would disagree. I think we're supposed to have a co-equal branch of government. Congress is in charge of spending. Congress is in charge of many of these administrative agencies. They were created by congressional act, by law. This president has thwarted all of that. And the Republicans in the Congress have basically sat on their hands. Now, I think it is a little bit heartening to see these discharge petitions come forward, that some things are being voted on now, such as a war powers resolution, such as these ACA subsidies. I think I take heart in that, because that's how it's supposed to work. Our representatives are addressing important issues and voting on them. So I'll take issue with what you said here. I would like to see Congress be more active here, and not so much to thwart whatever President Trump wants to do. He was elected, and he has a right to have his policies enacted also, but after debate and after consideration by Congress. And we haven't had that up until recently.
Mr. Carl, Mr. Stubblefield. Anybody have a comment here?
I've spoken.
Yeah. Well, okay. And I agree with Joe Ferretti.
Did you go, Mike?
I had on.
He
Yeah,
did.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. What were you pointing to before that?
Well, I thought maybe John Gilstrap might want to respond to Ferretti, but so I was
Oh, you're pointing at John.
Yes,
All right.
in case he wanted to.
I thought you were pointing at Mike. I thought I went to Mike already.
No, when I refer to the system working, no, the system's broken. And actually, John and I talked about this a couple of Thursdays ago about the imperial presidency, which has been promoted for the last 30 years through an inactive Congress. It ain't just this Congress. It's been, God, many Congresses that have been ceding their responsibilities to the executive branch, and the executive branch rises to the occasion and fills the vacuum. No, that part is not working at all. What I'm suggesting here is that when the act of a Republican crossing the line or a Democrat crossing the line, that's the way the system should work. that system, that slice of the system.
All right, now back to you, John.
Yeah. I agree with Joe Ferretti and the Admiral. Bill, you're right. Those 17 that voted for the subsidies, it was pure political considerations. What I hope to point out is that I think this means that maybe at least some of the Republicans in Congress are smelling the coffee about health care, that it is going to be a politically potent issue. So I think we're about to see a change in tone over the next year.
Issue number 5, Michael Carl.
Go back to things we've talked about earlier. I'm not sure what rules led to the taking Maduro's case to New York federal court. I mean, it's federal, there's federal courts all over the place, and why it ended up there, it could have been just the president's discretion. But the fact that it is there, and the relationship and the focus that it brings on their mayor, is I think a political plus for Trump and a political negative for Maduro or for Mandami, but it'll be interesting. And again, as I said earlier, the case can go to the Court of Appeals and ultimately the Supreme Court, and I assume it will. But that creates, to me, some political implications because it adds to the focus on the mayor of New York.
So your question is what?
Is do you agree, or what am I missing about the jurisdiction, or but do you agree that it'll focus on the New York mayor the way Trump wants it to happen?
Mr. Ferretti, go first on the phone, sir.
Yeah, they're I don't know. We seem to be really preoccupied with the mayor of New York City for some reason. I agree that there's some political implications for the Democratic Party as a whole, the fact he holds office. I don't know that the contrast here between the prosecution by SDNY and Maduro is going to draw any great contrast with a Mandami administration and how that works out for the people of New York City. It's going to be an interesting little experiment that takes place up in New York City. I don't know that that's going to translate into national politics and an adoption of a lot of what Mandami is going to institute in terms of policy. But I think the messaging coming out of Mandami will resonate nationally, and that's the affordability issue, the fact that you have to be 40 years old to own a house these days. That I think a lot of people are interested in a discussion about. But the Maduro, the prosecution of him up in New York City, I think is going to solely rely on that federal indictment and things he's been accused of doing. And I think the proof and the conviction of him will be fairly easy.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, Mike is raising a very interesting question, and I'm quickly trying to Google it to find an answer. I cannot.
Would you like me to come back to you, Bill?
I'm not sure I'll find the answer anyway, but Mike Carl has raised a very interesting question. How is the jurisdiction assigned for individuals such as Maduro coming in? I don't know. Was there political implications? Was there random choice? Was the judicial system handle it? John Gilstrap stuck his hand up. He may know the answer to that.
I'll be the one who directs the conversation around here, Admiral.
Anyway, I'm saying I don't know the answer to your very good question.
Listen, if Gilstrap knows the answer, I know a different one.
Well, we weren't supposed to know the answer. You're supposed to speculate.
Well, I was caught off guard. I read his question beforehand, but I did not anticipate where it was going.
So we do have an interesting revelation here, John Gilstrap, before you go, and that is all along I had thought that Bill was just well informed. Here he just needs enough time to Google what the answer is before his turn. Mr. Gilstrap.
And Google let me down this morning.
As I understand it, and by the way, the arrest of Maduro happened on the 36th anniversary of the arrest of Manuel Noriega, which happens to be chronicled in my book, 6 Minutes to Freedom, which will be a major motion picture from Netflix next year. I mean, just throwing that out, okay?
My eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
You know, never miss a marketing opportunity.
Oh, that was beautiful. That's the record holder right there, baby.
So federal courts can take any case where there's been harm anywhere in the United States. And SDNY, Southern District of New York, has a history, as I understand it. They tried that's where Noriega was tried. This is just the district where these kinds of cases tend to go, and that's what I've heard.
Yeah, John, you're correct. And the SDNY, Southern District of New York, they have a level of expertise there in terms of the attorney experience to handle these kinds of cases. And the Maduro indictment decades ago now originated in the Southern District of New York. So that's why he's there.
Why didn't you not call Joe Ferretti before you called me?
The funny thing is, I think he went before you most of the time. Didn't it?
Thanks, Joe, for bailing me out after the fact.
Mr.
Ferretti said I'm right. Let's just leave it there.
Yes, I did. John was right about that.
Mr. Carl comes back to you.
Well, I appreciate.
Did John Doyle have a chance?
Did you go, John? Oh, sorry, John. Go right ahead.
What Gilstrap and Ferretti said is exactly right. I'm done.
Well,
Drop the mic.
I appreciate the guidance as to try to explain how the case came to New York, but regardless of that, I think it's a good thing from Trump's point of view that it's there, and partly because it draws the focus to the mayor as well.
I find that to be a big leap, Mike.
Are you suggesting that the reason it's in the Southern District of New York is to call attention to Mondani?
No. I think if it was discretionary, the Trump might think of it that way and say yes to draw, to make Mondani have to respond more actively than he would if a case was in California or someplace else.
But President Trump said he wants to work with Mondani.
Oh yeah,
In the Oval Office.
He says that.
But
He did.
But the communism that Mondani wants to promote and the hatred of the free enterprise system can't be explained and stated and revealed enough.
But New York City has, in many times, have been very consistent in separating themselves from the Southern District of New York judicial system.
If you think that New York people don't like the free enterprise system and they want communism, I'm sorry, but there's a reason why I'm not up there anymore.
Okay, I'm stealing from Eric O'Rourke in our Facebook feed here. How angry would America be if the Trump administration took the $50 million bounty and applied it to the ballroom?
But he doesn't need it for the ballroom anymore. He's adding another addition on the White House to make it synchronous with the expanded ballroom. So he does need the $50 million.
And both are going to be taller than the White House.
Yeah, and over $400 million.
So you need that.
But
$50
it's all
million.
going to be privately financed.
Well, $50 million from Maduro.
That's $50 million saved.
That counts as private.
That's private.
Because it's going to Trump first.
Yeah, I'll throw my 25 cents in right there into the bank.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now,
If every taxpayer gave 25 cents, we'd have it covered.
Yeah, and what did you expect to get from that, Rob?
Well,
Your 25 cents.
Political influence.
Everybody else is getting political influence.
25 cents worth of political influence.
The money is not free. Money
25 cents worth from Trump?
From anybody. I'll take it from the local guy. Hey, we have 2 minutes left. So John Gilstrap posed this question in his three. As you all know, you have 3 topics to throw out there. So it was something we kind of hit on earlier. We had the Secretary of State on. He mentioned when the primary in West Virginia was this year, and that we typically have fairly low primary turnout. So what can, and John's question specifically, Gilstrap, was, what can West Virginia Republicans do to inspire a greater turnout in the primary? 2 of you ran for office successfully, Mr. Doyle, Mr. Gilstrap. Is it the party's response? I'm sorry, Mr. Stubblefield, Mr. Doyle. John said, no, I ain't running because I don't want to get divorced. John Gilstrap, that is. Is it the party's responsibility to make people turn out to vote? Bill?
It's
John?
going to be the caliber of the candidates. If the Democrats got stronger candidates, you'd find more Republican turnout. As it is right now, there's no reason to turn out because we're basically a one-party state.
Yeah, but even when there was a two-party state, it wasn't much.
We were never a two-party
Well,
state.
no,
we had good.
Democrats were declining, Republicans were increasing. There was that time when it
It was
was about
about a 10-year
55.
period.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
there were also contested incumbents.
Yeah.
Last time around.
That's right.
That nobody
But
turned out
if
for.
memory serves, we would typically have between 45 to 50% turnout. In the contested journal would have more
primaries?
than that. Well,
Generals, yeah.
Yeah, but primaries would also have a fairly large turnout because they were contested.
I don't
we
remember
don't have
many
them now.
large primary turnouts.
The average turnout in a Democratic primary, all the times I was running, would be about 40% in a presidential year and about 25% in a non-presidential
For
year.
a primary?
In a primary.
Wow. Well, that's getting all 5 people together in a room. So that's not.
Yeah, no, this is when I was running, and the Democrats were in charge, and every other primary, I would have primary opposition.
Hey, and that concludes our Friday discussion. You get your 8 seconds for final thoughts coming up in a moment. Joe, hang out there on the phone. Elvis turned 91 yesterday, and yes, he is still alive. I don't believe he's dead, no. Final thoughts, 8 seconds each. Joe Ferretti, go.
One way to increase primary participation is for the Republicans to open their primary.
Mr. Doyle.
I'm sorry Mississippi lost last night. Go Indiana tonight.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, a decade ago, there's much criticism. NCAA going to a playoff for football. It's shown the wisdom of that decision this week.
Mr. Carl.
My son-in-law's alma mater, Mississippi, lost a tough game, I agree. But so now I'm rooting for Indiana, which my wife lived in that state for a long time.
Mr. Gilstrap, 2 seconds.
Oh man, all this sports ball talk gets me excited.
Dave Ramsey Show is coming up next. Well, I got a comment there because you're sitting next to me. This is Talk Radio. WRNR Martinsburg. Talk to you in 7 short hours.